All right, what up, folks? It's your man, 100 Days of Summer. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the time I went to a Trump rally. Originally, I thought that Trump supporters were all racist and that it was a dangerous place or whatever. I saw other videos of people saying that they had went to Trump rallies and it changed their opinions and stuff like that, so I wanted to go and see for myself. I can't remember the name of the town, but I'll try to put the invitation up here as a screenshot. It was somewhere in PA. I think it was like Morrisville or something like that. It was a cloudy day. It wasn't beautiful and bright and sunny like the ones I had saw in LA. And when I pulled up to the place, I saw nothing but white people, which was also different than the ones that I saw in LA. So I'm not gonna lie, the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh, maybe these are the racist ones. I went there with my girlfriend at the time. She's actually the one that got the tickets. We get out the car and we make our way to get onto the shuttle bus. We get on the shuttle bus, everything's cool. Then we ended up driving to the actual site. We get off the bus and we're walking and you see the merchants on the right side. While she's purchasing something from one of the vendors, I see a guy being interviewed by a news crew, so I walk up. There's someone asking questions, and then there's a girl right here. Then the guy who's asking questions, he has a clipboard, I remember. And the girl right here, I just lean over and say, "Who do you guys represent?" And she's like, "Oh, we're with MSNBC." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I just cross my arms and I just look, and he's talking, and he's like going. He's saying all of the talking points that you would typically hear that are anti-democratic. Then he gets to the one about how they have used black people, and he runs that down, and then he's like, "Ain't that right, brother?" And he looks at me. Now, this guy looks like what you would think of the traditional Trump supporter from a small rural town. Like, I think it was like cut off sleeves, like a trucker hat, shadow, all those types of things. He looks at me and he's like, "Ain't that right, brother?" They all turn and look at me, and without even looking at them, I look dead at him and I say, "That's right, brother." And then they all turn back. They let him get out a couple more words, and then the guy right here with the clipboard, it's like, "Come on, everybody, let's wrap this up and move down." I'm like, wow. I thought they were going to turn to me and ask me, well, why do you feel that way? I thought they were going to try to get my side, being that I'm one of the only black people at this Trump rally. But they weren't. They turned and they walked down the other way. And I was like, wow, that shit is true. Like what they do, you know, they try to pick that one person that they can use to try to vilify the entire group or whatever. So that was eye-opening. We're in line trying to get to the part where you do those, where you walk around those things. I don't know what that's called, but people just kept walking up and saying, you know, introducing themselves, saying hi, whatever. And then they wait for a little second. And then they just be like, I just have to know, like, how did you get it? What they're basically saying is, you're black. They're telling you that Trump is racist. Like, they're using all this stuff to try to convince you that this is not where you're supposed to go. How did you see through that? Then I'd say, well, it kind of started with that video about verifying people on both sides. I would tell people that, and then they would share their stories. The majority of them were actually Bernie Sanders supporters. They were either for Bernie Sanders or they were for Ted Cruz. They said once they saw what happened to Bernie Sanders, then they left, they defected, as they would say, and then they went over to Trump. And then there was the other ones who said, I was hoping Ted Cruz would win it, but once he lost the primaries, I said, well, let me give this guy a shot. Now we are getting into that line where we're going like this or whatever. When you're in those lines, you're walking this way and then people are walking past you. As we're walking this way, every time people saw me and my girlfriend, they just be like, we're glad that you're here. And then they would give us a high five. And then everybody would just be so happy and give us high fives. And then it just kept happening. Every time we saw new people, they're like, oh my God, we're happy to see you. And then they're just giving us high fives, and it just kept going over and over. And then we finally get in. I thought we were going to be able to like kind of walk in and get into one of those stadiums, but it was way too packed by that time. I walked over to one section. I was just sitting there. It was a group of white guys, and they just as curious as everybody else, like, how the hell did you figure this shit out? Like, how did you know that Trump wasn't racist? And I just tell my stories, and then they all tell their stories, and it's the same thing. I was for Cruz. I was for Bernie. So my girl got to go to the bathroom, and she's taking too long, and it's a crowded place. I got to make sure she's cool, so I leave them, and I walk over to make sure she's all right. As I get over there, she's pretty much coming out the bathroom. As we're walking back, this tall, blonde-haired lady comes and walks up to us, and she says something like, do you want to sit in the front? And we looked at each other, we was like, hell yeah. She starts walking, she walks up to the crowd, and she turns back to us and she says, watch this. She raised her hand like this and does something like this. And it was a group of people along the fence in like black shirts. They all, make a way, make a way, make a way. I said, oh shit. And we just walk right through them and she walks us up. And I'm thinking that she's about to walk us up to the stadium part that's behind the podium, right? So that they can see there's black people at the Trump rally, right? That's what I was thinking. We're walking and she makes a right like this and we're like, oh shit. And we follow behind her and she literally walks us right to the part right in front of the podium. We're not sitting behind the podium in those bleachers. We're sitting in the front of the podium where no one else, no one can see us down there. They can only see directly behind where Trump would be at or whatever. So it wasn't even like she had places there for a photo opportunity. So I was surprised. I was expecting her to do that. And she actually just gave us really, really good front row seats. People sitting next to us, they have questions. They want to talk to us. They want to ask us, how did we figure it out? And then Trump's airplane arrives, big ass airplane comes flying in. Everybody goes crazy. Secret Service wiping everything down for COVID and all that. Then they put the little seal on. Then Trump walks in and everybody goes crazy. And they're playing the song, I think it was YMCA. I know there was one point where they were playing that song, and I'm proud to be an American. I remember that distinctly because there was a point where this guy walks around. He walks the same way they walked us up so we could sit there. He's walking that way. He must be coming from the bathroom. Like, I'm smiling and I'm like, I see him. I'm like, oh, I know not to even speak to him because he's obviously racist. Like, that's in my mind. That's what I thought. Like, he had the long beard, like the biker beard. He had the do-rag going. He had the cut off sleeves. He looks like the typical idea of what you would think a racist that votes Republican would look like. So I just keep looking at, just listen to the music and paying attention to what's in front of me or whatever. As he walks past, he's like, brother. And I was like, brother, and high five them, and he high five. We high five, he like that. My fingers is up. He's like, I'm like, oh snap. And then he walks off. I'm sitting there like, damn, I still got work to do. Everybody was very friendly. They were really, really, really happy to see me there. It's like when you have that really, really hood friend. I guess you only relate to this if you go to church or whatever, but when I was in church, it's like when you had that really, really hood friend and he just walked into church one day, everybody's like, oh my God, you've been doing all these bad things the entire time. People are so happy to see you there. There wasn't any animosity at all. They were just like, wow, you're here. You're not looking at us in a negative way. Oh my God, we're so happy to see you here. That's what it was like. I mean, it's a lot friendlier than my comment section, to be honest with you. The people who were supposed to be very, very racist didn't insult me, name call me, anything. The people that look like me, that claim to be a part of me, are the ones that talk to me even worse than those white people were supposed to. I'm surprised that my skin folk be talking to me that way. And I was also surprised that the guy who looks like the redneck called me brother and engaged with me when I turned away from him, engaged with me and called me brother. It's a eye-opening experience. That pretty much completes the story. I appreciate y'all's time and attention for listening to this story. Whatever you have, comments, concerns, whatever questions, you can ask them in the comment section. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.